The Uncanny Valley effect is a hypothesized psychological and aesthetic relation between an object's degree of resemblance to a human being and the emotional response to it. The way the Uncanny Valley effect works is often shown using this graph. Up until a certain point, the closer something is to a human being in appearance and/or action, the more we find it enjoyable to interact with, or cute. However, past a certain threshold, as the object becomes more and more human-like, it becomes unsettling. The object reaches a place where it's close enough to a human being to be identified as such, but not so convincing as to actually fool a person. It's so close to a regular human, but something is off. Some part of your mind is telling you that it's not actually a human, but instead, something to fear. This is what is known as the Uncanny Valley. The concept of the Uncanny Valley often appears when we try to recreate the human form, especially the nuances of the face, expression, and human-like movements. In pop culture, this usually comes up, intentionally or not, in things like CGI animation, animatronics and robotics, and other forms of art. The idea of the uncanny was coined in 1978 by robotics professor Masahiro Mori. Since then, people from all over the world have agreed that this is a phenomena that is widely experienced by the majority of the human race. Even before Professor Mori defined the idea in a clear fashion, the fear of uncanny human-like faces and forms have appeared throughout history. Some say the fear of the Uncanny Valley is almost as prominent as our species' fear of the dark. Usually, when a fear is experienced by the majority of the human race, there is an evolutionary reason behind it. The aforementioned fear of the dark made sense for early humans because there could be dangerous things there that they couldn't see. The humans that had a fear of the dark likely survived more often than those who wandered off into it. Even if there was nothing there, the fear that there could be something there kept humanity safe. Let's say there was only a predator in the dark 1 out of the 10 times that you looked out. Well, 1 out of the 10 humans that wandered out died, and 0 out of the 10 who didn't. Hence, over millions of years of people dying in the dark, the survivors had the fear of what they couldn't see encoded in their DNA for their own good. The same goes for many of the fears that are widespread throughout the species. Many people are afraid of heights, because falling historically leads to dying. Just because you go up high doesn't mean you'll fall. Just because you can't see what's in the dark doesn't mean there's a monster. But if you don't climb up, you can't fall off, and if you don't wander off, you can't get eaten. The moral of the story is, many evolutionary fears teach the same lesson. Don't fuck around. You don't want to find out. Even if you're not consciously aware of why, all of these fears had very good reasons behind them. This raises a clear pattern that shows when there is a fear prevalent across humanity, it likely evolved to protect the species from something. That being said, if these types of fears typically had an evolutionary cause, what is the reason behind the fear of things that look almost human, but not quite? There are many theories behind why humanity has evolved a fear of the Uncanny Valley. One of the most prevalent and accepted of which is the theory that this is supposed to protect us from disease and corpses. Oftentimes, an incredibly sick or dead person can become uncanny looking. Sunken eyes, translucent skin, yellowed teeth, etc. are signs that something is incredibly wrong. Nowadays, we can recognize it likely means a person needs help, and to get them to a hospital. Millions of years ago, if you got close to someone who looked that bad because they were that sick, it might just be lights out for you. There's no penicillin in cave times. If you got a disease, you just went straight to the dying hole. This fear could discourage you from interacting with the sick. As cruel as this is, this theory makes scientific sense. Also, if you're wondering why we need to stay away from dead bodies, corpses spread disease. I just saved one paste eater. However, while the disease/corpse theory would explain parts of why we fear the uncanny, there are some holes in that story. It could theoretically explain why uncanny faces are intrinsically unsettling, but it doesn't explain why movement that seems almost human but not quite also sets off alarm bells. Corpses don't move, and gravely ill people don't walk uncannily. They can barely walk at all. Humans also have entirely separate fears of both death and disease. So, saying that this is just a new combination of the two is unlikely, and in my opinion, a very far reach. There's also examples of the Uncanny Valley that don't look like they're sick or dead. They just look incredibly off. The feeling that something is pretending to be a person for some reason I don't know is what makes my skin crawl, not a fear of disease. Why would humanity almost universally report feelings of uncomfortability and fear around something almost human, but not quite? Going by the rule of thumb of evolutionary fears, it would make sense that those who did not have a fear of imposter humans were likely killed more often than those who did. Those who feared the not-quite humans were those who were able to pass down their genes, and therefore their fear, to their offspring. A couple million years later, and we get to live inside with porn rectangles and Uber Eats, and we aren't under constant threat. The Uncanny Valley phenomena is now a ghost of a threat, alongside our fear of the dark, but they still remain in our psyche. The thing is, with the fear of the dark, we know what the threat was. There's another phenomena that spans across the globe. Across all cultures of the human race, there are myths of creatures that pretend to be human, but in fact were predatory beings looking to make a quick meal out of an unassuming Homo sapien. This leads to my theory of where the fear of the Uncanny Valley comes from. I think that something in our past pretended to be us. A theory that I'm calling the Uncanny Valley predator theory. Many creatures camouflage themselves to either hide from predators or catch prey. Owls blend in with tree bark to catch unassuming mice. Praying mantis pretend to be flowers to lure in insects. Alligators look exactly like logs until they bite. And whatever was hunting us just needed to look human enough to get us to come just a bit closer. The Uncanny Valley predator theory states that the reason that humans have evolved a fear of uncanny human-like representations is that uncanny human-like representations were dangerous for some reason in our past. Looking to what the past of humanity was, the threats we most often dealt with, other than the elements of nature and other humans, were predators. It would stand to reason that humans have evolved a fear of something masquerading to be a person, because it was the tactic of a dangerous predator. Those who did not have this fear of the masquerade likely perished, leaving the genetic pool of future humans forever stained with the trauma of being hunted by something that looks almost exactly like them. You may be wondering where this predator is, and to that I say, the best way to speedrun going extinct is to be scary to humans. Earth life hack. That's why all the big scary things are dead, in zoos, or far away from civilized society. While some may think that a predator that disguises itself as a human to prey on them is a bit far-fetched, might I offer an alternative theory that you will probably also say is far-fetched. Humans, regardless of the individual species, are warring apes. For the majority of human history, we were killing each other an awful lot, and food was incredibly scarce. Neanderthals, like Homo sapiens, have shown signs of cannibalism in their own species, and likely have eaten other human species they've come across. Keep in mind that Homo sapiens did this too, but if you're gonna pick someone to eat, you'll likely pick your weird-looking neighbor over your much more normal-looking brother. The chances that different human species were hunting each other for food in certain areas of history is higher than you might think. Combine this with the fact that Neanderthals have different standard facial proportions, prominent brow ridges that would make their eyes look sunken, limbs that seem just a bit too long, and facial proportions that, while resembling Homo sapiens, are just a bit off. And you have yourself a large, Uncanny Valley anthropomorphic predator that would give any Homo sapien good reason to fear something that is almost human but not quite. I'm not singling out Neanderthals here, but their described physiology and combined geographical and chronological overlap with Homo sapiens makes them a prime candidate. One researcher even stated that Neanderthals could vocally speak like Homo sapiens, but didn't have the necessary linguistic intelligence to form logical and complete sentences. Which would totally feed into the Uncanny Valley theory, because at that point, it's just a skinwalker. However, I kept this part towards the end, because researcher is a strong word. I only got that complete sentence thing from a Salmonella clone video, but I don't know, I liked it. I think he did a good job. Some of you might state that this would go against the popular theory that Homo sapiens and Neanderthals interbred and became one species, because why would you be attracted to a giant monster that might eat you? I state that it doesn't. I personally really would want an 8-foot tall, terrifying girlfriend. And that's a weird note to end on, I guess. Anyways, if you like this video for some reason, you should like, comment, and subscribe with all notifications enabled, or I'll uncanny your valley. Shout out the inner circle. Love y'all.